I took on a partner because I was going to the University of Colorado, and I actually had her buy me out for $250,000. It was $50,000 down plus $1,500 a month for 10 years. So what I did with that $50,000 is I bought my first 5-unit property in Ypsilanti, Michigan. And it's directly across the street from Eastern Michigan University. That was in 2002, and I still own that property today. And that's how I got started in real estate. Since I was getting that $1,500 a month, I could just be an entrepreneur, and I did work a couple different construction jobs as a superintendent, worked in some real estate jobs, but I could really rely on that income, and so I was able to focus full-time on real estate. I purchased a 5-unit, then I purchased a 30-unit in 2004. Took on my first investor, my parents, always a very good source of investment. And then I basically purchased a property a year until the foreclosure crisis. And in the foreclosure crisis, there were 3 landlords in Ypsilanti who lost about 75 properties all at the same time. Ypsilanti is a very small town, so it was kind of odd that all of a sudden 75 properties are for sale. And what I did is I had a real estate agent working for me, and we made an offer on every property as it hit the market, low bid offer. And what was happening is I had cash, and almost no one else did, and so we were able to buy the properties for like half of what the banks were asking initially. So we bought a 5-unit for 10 grand. We bought a duplex for 9 grand. We bought a 7-unit for 50,000. And so I bought about 42 multifamily properties in Ypsilanti, all less than 100,000 each, in the foreclosure crisis from 2008 to 2012. And the way I did that is I did the BRRRR strategy. Is that what you say? Okay. So what I did is I bought the property with cash, fixed it up with cash, and then refinanced out of it. And I hooked up with a couple of commercial lenders at the beginning of the foreclosure crisis when it wasn't so bad, and they actually allowed me to get an appraisal, and then they would loan me 75% of the appraisal. So oftentimes that was actually more money than I had into the property, and it kind of snowballed. I did 23 deals with one bank, and then they cut me off, and I did like 6 with another, and 10 with another. But I was able to purchase those 42 properties with about $100,000. Just by recycling it in the foreclosure crisis. As we were coming out of the foreclosure crisis, I was way overexposed to real estate. I didn't have enough experience managing the properties, and so it was really tough. And between like 2012 and 2014, it was a really tough position to be in because the cities were jacking up the taxes. They weren't lowering them; they were still increasing them, and tenants were hard to find. At least around Ypsilanti, where Eastern Michigan University is. In the foreclosure crisis, a lot of students lived at their parents' house, so there weren't as many tenants. So I ended up running out of cash, not like in a can't pay the water bill type scenario, but just didn't have any more cash to invest in 2014. So what I did is I started taking on real estate investors by syndicating deals. And so there were still deals to be had, so I would enter into a contract to buy a property, and then by the time of the closing date, I would raise the money from 2 or 3 guys to purchase the property. So I did that a couple different times with my partners, and their family and friends started to see what success we were having with those transactions, and so we decided to just more formally do it like a full real estate syndication deal, and we formed a company called Watermark Partners. It's watermarkpartnerspre.com. You should check that out. Watermarkpartnerspre.com. That's our syndication real estate website. And so what we wanted to do with Watermark is we wanted to buy multifamily apartments bigger than we could buy ourselves. The biggest property I ever purchased until that date was a 30 unit. And it's really hard to buy much more than a 30 unit as one individual with money that you've saved or earned. So what we did is we did a formal process where we formed the Watermark Partners and then sold shares to investors for $25,000 each. And what we did is we were very successful with that. We raised $2.4 million by selling shares to investors and bought out 15 properties with that money in 2014. And we bought like a 14 unit, a 28 unit, a 33 unit, little small properties like that. That was Watermark Fund 1. Then we formed Watermark Fund 2 and raised $5 million. We formed Watermark 3 and raised $20 million. And with the $20 million, we bought about $80 million worth of property. And then Watermark 4, which we just finished, we raised $50 million from selling shares for $25,000 each. And so we, in that 4-year period, bought 6,500 apartments. That one. And when you buy that many apartments, you screw up a lot. There's probably we bought like 130 apartment complexes. Probably 20 or 30 we probably shouldn't have bought. Too much, not good enough underwriting. Basically, not enough capex reserved, and so the deals didn't go as well. But we also had some huge grand slams as well. We bought a 468 unit apartment complex that we're selling next week actually for a $10 million profit. We owned it for about 18 months. We bought it for 21 million or selling for 31 million in its landing. And so why I'm here today is my partners and I had a great time building this company and buying these 6,500 apartments, but I decided that I don't want to have partners anymore. And so I formed my own company and I'm doing it again, kind of backtracking back to Watermark Fund 1 where I'm going to raise $2.5 million. So I'm just out here meeting people, and if anybody wants to invest $25,000 in what I'm doing, you can buy a share of Beal Fund 1, which is the company I formed. And I was going to tell you about 3 deals today that I'm in contract to buy through this fund, and just kind of tell you about them. And I thought we would underwrite one of them just so you see like what I look at when I buy properties, and ask a lot of questions. So does anyone have questions so far about that crazy story I just told you? Yes.
How can you sit here and talk so casually like you're not doing it?
Yeah, so people ask me like, Stewart, like how are you so successful? And the first thing I say is, well, my mom's a lawyer, and my dad owns the largest construction company in Ann Arbor. So as a young person, I was far more exposed than the average person to like business, law, and things like that. So I had a strong upbringing from that perspective. But definitely it's in the trenches entrepreneurism that I've done for 17 years now. And I've met groups like this 100 times when we were raising that money. The average net worth of some of those groups was very high because we were doing these groups like this in New York and Atlanta and Texas, where some people that we're meeting with were far more successful than we were. I'll say that. Just get used to it. So.
I have a question for you, sir.
Yeah.
What's your view on the current financial environment that we seem to be going into here with what's going on with our economy and that type of thing? I just want to get your opinion on what you think. If it's a good time to jump on things now, or wait maybe 6 months, or I just want to kind of get your opinion on what you think.
Yeah, so I like to think that I can do real estate in any economy. Whether it's a really strong economy, it has advantages, and if it's a weak economy, obviously I've told you about the advantages. You can buy properties.
Right, that's what you said before, yeah.
Right. Something really wild happened this week where these deals that I'm going to tell you about, 2 of them I'm financing with Old National Bank. I applied for the loan, or I started telling the banker about the deals before I entered into the contract. So that was like 3 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
I I applied for the loan like 45 days ago, and at that time, he told me the interest rate on the loan was gonna be 4.33%. He sent me an email out of the blue this week and said, Stewart, we're locked into close on Friday, your interest rate's gonna be 3.6%. And so on a deal, on a real estate deal of any size, that is a tremendous thing. And so I've never borrowed money for less than like 3.89% before, and that was like some super special that PNC was doing. I mean, our average borrowing cost on when we bought at Watermark was probably more like 4.5%. But yeah, Old National right now is offering 3.6% money. So this week, it's pretty wild. I'm paying what I'm paying for these properties. I assume it's gonna be 4.3. Now I get to plug 3.6 in the pro forma. The numbers just look a lot better that way. So on that point, it's like great to be a real estate investor. But in terms of like big nationwide things like the coronavirus, all of your tenants, most of your tenants in multifamily, and you guys probably own single family homes where you've got some really good tenants. Like I had a tenant apply for a house that I own, and his salary was $225,000. Okay, he's a professor at UM. That's not the tenant that we have in our apartments. You know what I mean? Yeah. The tenants we have in our apartments, they are all hourly workers, and if this virus gets bad, they're not going to work and they're not going to pay the rent. Right. And so that's this week I'm going into the greatest loan I've ever gotten, and I'm faced with that too. So it's like I don't know, my head's kind of spinning. Yeah. And I'm not the confidence speaker, so yeah.
If you can clarify mine to the shares, like the ROI, and is that for a short-term investment or is that for the life of the property?
Yeah, so we do what's called offering memorandums, where we make an offering memorandum per the property and per fund. And this one we're looking at here is for 33 units in Dundee, 33 apartments plus 4 commercial spaces that are mixed use. And so we do a per property pro forma, which I'm going to show you here in a minute, and that calculates the cash on cash return, the cap rate, and the IRR that we would expect from the individual deal. And then we put the deals together in a fund. So if you're investing $25,000 in my fund, you're exposed to all of the properties that we buy in this fund. So right now we're in a contract for 3 properties. We're in a contract for 37 units in Dundee, 14 units in Toledo, and a vacant commercial office building I'm buying in Ypsilanti. And so if you were to invest today, you'd get a small slice of those 3 deals. If we never raise any more money and never purchase any more properties, those would be the 3 properties you've invested in. Likely, it'll end up being more like 15 properties. We purchase price between the Toledo thing is $205,000 and the Dundee thing is $1.3 million.
So I'm sorry, does it match rate immediately when you give the monies, or is there like an investment period before you start to see?
Yeah, so your money isn't put to work until we buy the property. But we don't capital call your money until we're ready. So let's say you didn't invest now, but we bought these 3 properties next week and you invested the week after, we wouldn't ask for your money until we were ready to close on the next deal. And I don't have the next deal identified right now. So that's how that works. Yeah.
So I got a couple questions. So you're talking about some of the big mistakes for like an underwriting,
Yeah.
and like CapEx. Could you kind of tell us a little bit more about what to be really careful with when you're underwriting a deal?
Yeah.
So you don't make those mistakes.
Yeah, so we purchased 130 apartment complexes in 5 years, and that meant we looked at probably 600-700 apartment complexes in 5 years. And when you have a small team, you're trying to keep things lean, because your costs you charge back to your investors. You're trying to keep things lean. You don't have as robust of a team as you might have liked, and you just cut some corners that we just didn't properly underwrite a few of the deals. And so, for example, we bought a property called Hill Chateau in Akron, Ohio, 44 units. It was 95% occupied, but we didn't ask the seller for a delinquency report. It turns out he hadn't evicted anybody. And so, it went from 95% occupied down to 23% occupied under our ownership, you know. And we would, you know, if that was the only deal we bought, we would be done, right? But we bought, you know, there's lots of good properties too that, you know, either blind luck, you do better than that, because that's about as bad as it gets. Or, you know, you just underwrite it better. So for instance, like, you know, on a lot of the deals we requested delinquency, and if the guy, so I bought a property in Monroe, Michigan, 44 units. I evicted 36 of the people in the first 6 months because they didn't pay, and but we knew that going in. So we budgeted the turns, and we told the seller, look, yeah, you think your property's worth $1 million, you think you've got 100% occupancy, but it's not really 100% occupancy, it's way less because these people all owe over $2,000. And so we negotiated at that point a much better deal. And that Monroe deal, I gave an example of, even though I evicted 75% of all the tenants, it's actually our highest performing deal. It's now a 14 cap deal. We've owned it for 3 years. Got a tremendous cash. Because we budgeted it correctly and did the CapEx. So back to the Hill Chateau deal, what happened is, when you buy an apartment complex, you assume you're gonna turn so many apartments a year, right? And so we ended up turning 4 times more in the first year than we thought we would, you know, and that busted the deal. And it busted for years, you know. If you assume you're gonna make 8% or 9% on a deal, and you have to spend 3 times as much on renovations as you thought you were, you know, you're not gonna start any money for 4 or 5 years. Yeah, right.
How do you determine, or is there any way besides the underwriting of the deal, what areas you invest in? Is there anything else that you look at besides?
Yeah.
I mean, of course, the numbers have to make sense, but how do you know where you wouldn't invest?
Yeah, so one of my partners fancies himself as a bit of an economist. He wrote some white papers on different cities. We looked at Flint, decided no to Flint. We looked at Gary, Indiana, so no. We looked at, what's that city? We looked at multiple cities in Ohio and said no, just because we felt the economies were going the wrong way, city by city at the time. And then we chose Ypsilanti because that's where I owned properties. We chose Toledo because that's where I owned properties and had like a good management structure. And then we chose, we invested in Kalamazoo and Lansing because there are robust multifamily opportunities in those cities, and we thought we had a good management team there. And then we raised so much money, we needed to expand. We can't invest that much money in those cities. So we picked some additional cities in Sandusky, Ohio, Akron, Canton, Ohio. And we looked at 600 apartment complexes and only bought 130. We looked at 20 cities and only invested in 9 cities. But I would say for someone who's starting out, you need to invest in a property that's close to your house, and you need to invest in a property that someone's going to manage. And so you have to remember that if you're investing in single-family homes in Detroit that are $20,000 each and only rent for $600-700 a month, you might want to do it on paper, but who's going to manage them? And so that's, you know, one of the things you've got to take into consideration. Management of the real estate is one of the most important things.
And you don't own your own property management, you got different property managers?
So I own a property management company that manages 3,100 apartments, and then Watermark, my fund, employs 2 other property managers that manages other properties. That was too far from our range to manage. Yeah, and we've had some hell associated with that. I hired a property manager who fired like 9 days later one time because I was like, where are you? They were like, yeah, we haven't found the staff, you know, for that property yet. I was like, all right, you got it done. I gotta do something else. So you gotta really interview your property manager well.
Does anyone else have any questions? It'd be really cool to, oh my God.
As far as, you had mentioned at another time that you do individual LLCs for funds that you raise for deals. And I can only assume how that might work for investors. But but you also just mentioned that if you had like 3 active deals and you have a fund, you kind of diversify that investment. So is that a good, like, I guess it's kind of 2-form questions. One way that kind of diversifies the risk of any one property going south for a little while, right? But how would that look also for the investor as far as like just owning shares, kind of like a stock or something like that?
Yeah, so the legal structure is there's the sponsor. You can call it whatever you want. The sponsor I'm running today is Beal Capital.
Okay.
Beal Capital sponsors investment opportunities. So it sits up here. You don't invest in Beal Capital, it's the sponsor, that's me. You invest in the fund, and so we are doing Fund 1. So it goes down here. And then Fund 1 invests money into multiple properties. The Dundee deal, the Toledo deal, the Slanton deal. Those sit down here. And so the tenants pay down here, and then it follows up to here, and gets paid out to the investors. That protects me as the sponsor, it protects the investors, because one of the greatest advantages of investing with me is you might see the tenants attacking me on Facebook, but they aren't gonna be attacking you. They're not gonna be putting dog shit in their mailbox like me and all that type of stuff. So, and I have it on video. So that's one of the major advantages of investing in a fund is it's supposed to be passive, right?
Right.
Also, I never called any of my investors and even told them about this Hill Chateau disaster. I didn't tell them to come meet out there and help me, suck up roaches with the vacuum cleaner and stuff, all the problems we had out there. I mean, that's one of the major advantages of investing in a fund is, and I know you want to do your own fund, that's one of the major pitches that you have is you meet with an investor who says, okay, I have $25,000, I can buy a single family home and manage it myself, or I can give it to you and you do all the work, and that's your major pitch, which is like, sure, that the single family home run might be good for you, or this might be good for you, and you've got a lot of people in here want to do their own thing, that's fine, and you'll have to find some doctors who are too busy, and get money from them, but it's a compelling pitch that you can invest in real estate by having to do the work. That's compelling to a lot of people. Yeah.
So to follow along with that same thought, a lot of the doctors and lawyers and stuff that I run into raising private capital, a lot of them question me about the tax benefits. So,
Right.
If I'm an investor and I own a whole bunch of single families, there's a lot of tax shelter advantages to doing that.
Yeah.
So how do you answer that question if they say, well, am I gonna get the same tax benefits? I mean, and maybe follow along is, do you give K1s? For all of your investors?
Yeah, so they invest, so the fund is an LLC, they invest in the fund, and they're a member of the LLC. They're not a managing member, but they're a member, and so they get a K1, and they get the tax benefits that you would get investing in real estate. I answer the question telling them I'm not their accountant, and they need to have their accountant review the documents I'm presenting and my performance and everything like that. But I tell them that they'll receive all the tax benefits of investing in small properties on their own, plus way more, because what we do is called tax segregation. And so we hire on a property like a third, probably not a 14 unit, but a property like this one in Dundee. These are bigger buildings that have boilers, and they've got roofs, and they've got everything. You can hire a tax consultant who will slice and dice depreciation for that building and get you way more depreciation.
So for that particular fund, let's say I'm an investor in that fund.
Yeah.
Do you typically, after depreciation and the segregation, is it a passive loss?
It is for the first couple of years. Yeah. So for instance, I bought a building I bought a commercial building in downtown Slaney for $1.9 million. I invested $400,000 into it. In the first year, we made a profit of like $100,000. But I hired the tax segregation, and they gave me a $300,000 loss in the first year.
Nice.
So I made 100, and then I got an additional $300,000 loss that I used to offset other income that I earned. And that's what we offer investors, and that's why investing in real estate is the best.
And then your investor basically just rack up those passive losses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for a couple of years, and then we might sell a property, and, our fund can 1031, which is, if people don't know what 1031 means, it's a way to sell a property without having to pay any taxes on it. Our fund can 1031, but it's kind of nice to say, it's kind of nice to actually give investors money back, because they're like, hey, we actually did what you said. And so when we sell this property for a $10 million profit, we're actually just giving it back, and that will have to pay taxes on that.
How much is a segregation study usually run? Is there like a?
On that $1.9 million, it was 5,000.
Okay.
Yeah. Definitely worth it.
Yeah.
And how much, like, what's the smallest you can go on a cost stagger?
Yeah, I would say it has to be, commercial. It has to be commercial, and it has to be, 500,000 or more. But if you're investing in something that's less, you're gonna get depreciation, benefits, and tax savings. You're just not, you're gonna get it over 27 years as opposed to front loaded like I did. The time is money, and so it's better front loaded. Yeah. Any more questions? Yeah, go ahead.
As far as structuring your fund,
Yeah.
like I'm pretty sure you won't be able to deep dive into it, but what is like the outskirts of due diligence of creating a fund as massive as that, like the SEC regulations?
Yeah, so the first one we did where we were gonna raise, $2.4 million. We accepted accredited and non-accredited investors. That's a term for the SEC. Investors that have a net worth of more than $1 million, and investors that are worth less than $1 million. So we could accept money from either category. We paid $10,000 to a lawyer to write the offering memorandum that we gave to investors, getting them to agree to do it. Okay. That's like kind of small stakes, and even if an investor gets pissed and complains to the SEC, it's just small. It's not major thing. That was fund one. On fund four, where we raised $50 million, we paid a lawyer like $175,000 to write the most like ironclad document ever, and we only accepted money from accredited investors. That's people that have a net worth of higher than $1 million, and the SEC treats them differently than they treat someone who does not have a net worth of over $1 million.
With the funds that you have set up, are you able to, I'm not sure the proper terminology, but certain funds you can have where I know him, I can get 50,000, him, I can get 50,000, but I can't advertise to them.
Yeah, so what I do on smaller deals, and I do lots of little deals, you take on investors that don't have a high net worth. Just make them a managing member of the LLC. That resolves all the problems. So let's say you're gonna buy 5 North Telegraph in Detroit. Just made that address up. Form 5 Telegraph LLC. You put in some money, they put in the money, you guys are managing members of the LLC. But you want control, right? So have the managing LLC sign an agreement with you, your company, what's your name? Tim LLC, to manage the property, and you control the property, and but you're covered from an investor's perspective. And once a year, the 3 of you should have a meeting, discuss the business of the LLC, document it, you're good. That's a smaller one. Obviously, we're gonna take millions from people to do a lot of it. Yeah.
Now, if you invest in the fund, you can become accredited, because you have to.
So this will not increase your net worth in the beginning, but if it makes money, then it will. Yeah. Tio, can you take a few pictures?
Yeah.
Okay, so let me just tell you about a few of these deals and what how I got into them and how I became aware of them. So this property right here is 3 buildings in Dundee, Michigan. And we buy from real estate brokers. They email us their deals. And then we also are just out there networking with people all the time. So like I come and meet with these groups, and then like a week later, someone in this group is going to email me and say, hey Stewart, I have a property for sale. No one knows about it. It's weird. Take a look at it. And that was one of these deals here. This 33-unit apartment complex in Dundee. The reason I got involved in this is I spoke at the Ann Arbor Real Estate Investment Club, whose organizer is a guy named Brian Bundison. Brian knew a family who lived in Dundee. Their mom had just died. She was the one who managed these 3 buildings. The family didn't know what they wanted to do with them. Brian suggested they hire me as the property manager. I started managing the property, and then I was doing such a good job, they were like, wow, we could really sell these for a lot of money. They talked to a bunch of real estate brokers, and the real estate brokers said, we can get this much for it, and I told them I can match that and save the broker fee if I can just buy it. And so that's kind of like the weird story, the way I get into some of these deals is by making connections. I didn't talk to a real estate broker or a real estate agent or anything like that. This 33-unit apartment complex plus 7, it's three buildings in which there are 33 apartments and 4 commercial properties. There's like a donut shop and a yoga studio and a small food business. The average rents were so low that I was able to come in and make a huge dent in the work that I would do after I bought it when I don't own it. So they hired me to manage it. So I was able to increase the rents, do a lot of the work before I even bought it, and that's why this deal is so attractive. There's a lot of heavy work on this portfolio that's already done. But it's the Riverwalk Apartments, and then it's the Van Ness Apartments. Is there any questions about how to meet real estate sellers? I mean, it's really networking. It's networking with real estate brokers, with real estate contractors, and then something I do a lot of, I mail a lot of letters. I probably mailed like 10,000 letters in my career, probably more. Basically a letter, I'm sure you guys have all read all what kind of letters you should write, but it's basically, you know, hey, I like to buy real estate, your house is attractive, you're very interested in selling, you need to call. And then like 4 years later, someone will call you and say, hey, I found this in my mom's drawer, you know, she just died, you want to buy the house? You know, that's kind of, it's no more successful than regular junk mail. I mean, regular junk mail is like a 2% success rate, so if you mail a lot of letters, you'll get a couple hits, you know. That's how it is.
Have you had results with doing this on apartments?
Yeah. So CoStar and LoopNet. CoStar subscriptions are insanely expensive, but you can buy them for short periods of time and then do a lot of work and then get out of the deal. But you can get the address of every property owner in the entire United States through CoStar, and you can mail letters. And I bought about 50 apartment complexes in Toledo, probably 10 income letters.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and that's not that 10 was 30. I just didn't buy it. Like, you know.
Yeah.
And Toledo's a city where a lot of these owners have owned it for 30, 40 years. And the letters are a lot more successful when you send them to a mom and pop operator that actually opens their own mail, as opposed to like some slick guy in New York who owns a super nice apartment complex. He doesn't touch his own mail, you know, those letters just get thrown away. I mean, I get them all the time too. People, I mean, letters, so I don't know.
Do you send like a standard letter, or like, do you research on the apartment building and offer a price when you send the letter?
Yeah, the best letter is where you like research the property and like tell them why you want to buy it and give them some sort of something on the price. But I've dropped thousands of letters in the mail where all it is just, you know, standard. Hey, I was driving around and saw your property. Well, that's not true. I wasn't driving around. You know, just standard things. But I got one this week of a guy like holding his dog, And his like wife was on his shoulder. He was like, "Hi, I'm a real estate investor." And I was like, "Oh, that's pretty good." but I mean, I thought it was a pretty good approach. I mean, it probably worked for some people. They'd be like, "Oh, keep talking. Give this guy a call. I want to sell my property." You know? So I've seen lots of. I also see ones that are like super bold red, like angry, and then I see ones that are like yellow. You know, but it works. You got to do the work. You know? And then if there's ever a property that you want to buy for like an exact reason, like I know you said you wanted to buy the property next to your father's restaurant, just knock on the door. The tenant will answer, and you'll say, "Who owns this building?" And the tenant will say, "After you get out of here." You know, and go to the next door, knock on the next door. The tenant will answer, and she's like, "Oh yeah, like my friend owns it. Like here's his number." And then you call them. You know, that works too. Yeah, I don't have to. Very specific buildings. Yeah, you're not going to do that all over Toledo all day, but if you want to buy a specific property. Okay, all right, and then I thought we'd look at a performer real quick, and I can email you guys all these documents here. I'm going to try to get to your signing list. I can email all this stuff to everyone. Okay, how do I get to the Excel?
Can I ask you a question real quick?
Yeah, please.
As far as the property management side,
I got
do you feel like there's any major downsides to owning your own property management company, or what are like some of the major challenges that you face with owning your own property management company?
Yeah. So it just depends on what size you want it to be. So in the beginning, you're dealing with the tenants, and the tenants can make your life miserable. Not all of them do, but they can. I'll tell you my first tenant story is when I bought that 5 unit when I was 19. I was like, I'm the greatest guy in the world. I just bought this 5 unit. This is gonna be so easy. I'm just gonna collect all this money. And then I met this woman who lived in apartment number 1, and she said, "Hey, Stewart, nice to meet you. I'm going on vacation for a month. I'll pay you the rent when I get back." And I was like, "Well, what does it do now?" And she was like, "Well, I'll just pay it when I get back." I was like, "Okay." I mean, I was like, okay. I grew up in Arbor. People are mostly truthful and nice. Like, okay, I'm sure she's gonna pay when she's back. So I made friends with the people in apartment 2, and I lived in apartment 4. And the people in apartment 2 kept saying, like, "Stuart, you gotta do something about the dog in apartment 1. It's just barking constantly." And I was like, "There's no way there's a dog in apartment 1. She's on vacation for a month." And they were like, "No, there's definitely a dog." I was like, "No, you're just like not understanding where the sound is coming from. It's like a old historic house. It must be between 3 or 4." So like a week goes by, and they're like, "Stuart, there's definitely a dog in there." So I go, it's like a different entrance. I go around the building, I go in, and the door's like, and the dog, you can see the dog like at the base of the thing. So I key in, and this woman just dumped a 50-pound bag of dog food all over her apartment and left for vacation for a month. She left the water running in the sink, so the dog could like jump up and drink the water. And the whole apartment was just filled with dog food and dog shit. So I'm like frantically trying to get a hold of her. I can't get a hold of her. I ended up taking the dog to the Humane Society. And so that's what you deal with when you own a small property management company. And she got that. Never paid $1 single in rent. And so like as a 19-year-old, I evicted someone like 4 months after owning the building. So that's what you do when you have a small property management company. My property management company, we employ 62 people, so now it's all about the people. And so you have to deal with people all the time. And if you're good at managing people and training people and getting them to do what you can get them to do, and that's very difficult as well. Okay, did I answer that question?
Everyone see that up there? For sure, everyone's smart.
Maybe turn down.
What happened to it? Got rid of it?
Oh.
Why can't I see it on my screen? Oh, okay, all right, because it's this screen. Okay, all right, no problem. No, this is good. Okay, great. So this is my performa. Whether I'm buying a single family home, and I can email you guys this performa. You can play around with it, and you can plug your deal into it. This is the performa I developed many years ago, and I've been using it for many years. It's an Excel document, and whether I'm buying a single family home, which I do, I bought a single family home a couple weeks ago. It was a strategic acquisition. Or whether I'm buying a 14 unit, which is what this is, or a 468 unit, which I've done. I do this same exercise and this same performance. The only difference is if it's like less than 20 units, I break out each unit into its own row. If it's like 100 units, I consolidate it where it's like 28 one bedrooms, 32 two bedrooms, 30 3 bedrooms, and consolidate it. And then this, I wanted to get specific on this deal, and I actually put the tenant names in there. I put the individual rents in there. And there's an error here, sorry, I should say 2020. If there's more errors, let me know. But it should say 2020. And so this row right here is the expected rents in 2020. Toledo is a very tough market, and this is in a tough neighborhood in Toledo. So what I've done is put the expected rents in here, but then in row 22, I put a total vacancy rate and bad debt for the property at 10%, which means I'm expecting that at the very best, I'll never collect more than 90% of the money that I could. In Ann Arbor, you might tell me that we should have a 1% bad debt. Livonia, you can buy a single family home and figure you'll never have bad debt as long as you screen your tenant really well. But in Toledo, you can't rent 14 units and expect all the rent. So I put the vacancy rate in there. And that gives you a total revenue of 80,000, which is in row 23 in the first year. Now, this deal I'm buying for 205,000. So I'm going to collect 80,000 on the 205,000 purchase price, which sounds incredible. You can buy a single family home and only get 20,000 instead of 80,000. But that's because this property is very expensive. And so the purchase price that I'm into this deal for is reflected in the expenses. So how do I scroll down?
I think if you just, you know.
I can scroll down. Oh, okay, good. With the mouse. I already find the mouse.
It disappeared. Here it is. I just saw it.
Wait a minute.
It's right on top of it.
Right there?
See, I think you gotta go a little slower.
No, there it goes.
There it is. Put it on the
Side to side.
There you go.
There it is.
Right, so this property is expense heavy, and you can see that I've got my expenses in here. And I break it down every way, but on a 468 unit apartment complex, you might have to add a bunch of rows on here to add in additional expenses. So for instance, on that property, you're gonna have security, and you're gonna have maybe a concierge, you're gonna have a fitness center, you're gonna have a pool, and you wanna add rows to add your additional expenses in there. But on a deal like this, it's a basic set of expenses. So the first one is your property management fee. I think that's 8%. You've got advertising, you've got insurance cost, you've got legal and accounting fees. So since every property is its own LLC, I put in $500 minimum for the tax return, and then also you're going to file a few evictions, so that's in that category. Then you've got your legal and accounting fee, or not your legal and accounting fees, excuse me, your building maintenance and working capital. And what I do is on a rough deal, I put in $1,000 to $1,200 per unit per year for maintenance. On a nicer deal, I've seen people go down as little as $650 a unit. This is a rougher deal. So I've got 1,000 in there. Then I've got site maintenance, so that's lawn care, mowing the lawn. That's also some pest control. Then I've got taxes. Then I've got utilities, and this is a very expensive utility arrangement. We pay all the gas, we pay all the water, and it's an historic building, so it's not very efficient. I actually reviewed the seller's expenses, and they're higher than I assumed, because when I toured the building, I could see there were some easy fixes on some of the utility problems. And so I've kind of lowered them a little bit in my pro forma. And then I've got other expenses in there, and I just throw a little extra money in there for other expenses. You don't really know what's going to come up. but it's also a bit of a reserve. So I put $200 per unit in reserves for $2,800. And so you'll see the net operating income is 18,000. That's what's available to pay your debt. Go down a little bit more here. When I did this pro forma, the bank was telling me my interest rate was going to be 4.06, and it was going to be a 25-year mortgage. Now he's saying it's a 33.6% mortgage, but that cost will fall a little bit. But you'll see that we've got a debt coverage ratio of 1.74 and a cash-on-cash return of 10.4. Does everyone know what a debt coverage service ratio is? So that's the ratio the bank will judge you on, is they're gonna finance the deal or not. The bank wants to see a 1.2 or higher, which means that you can pay your debt plus 20% more, with the worst case, okay? And this, we're doing better at 1.74. Okay, and then go down a little more. Again, I can email this to everybody so they can play around with their deal. But basically, I'm buying this for $205, but I put the purchase price at $245 because I'm gonna invest $40,000 in the first week on the property. I'm gonna replace a roof, replace a boiler. So I'm assuming it's gonna be $245. I'm working with a bank that's gonna lend on cost. A lot of banks will only lend on the acquisition price and need you to put the cash in to fix it up. But this bank I've got a good relationship with, and they're gonna lend me 75% on cost. So I'm gonna borrow $168,000, and I'm gonna invest investors' money of $76,000. It calculates in row 71 what your IRR is gonna be and what your ROI is gonna be, which gives you a sense of a way to judge your real estate deal versus other real estate deals that you're looking at the time. And then you can set some like minimum standards. And then you can tell them to your investors or just to yourself if you're doing this yourself. So if you look at a deal that you really, really want to do, but it's a 6% cash-on-cash return, and you're looking at a deal that you want to do less, but it's a 15% cash-on-cash return, but you only have money to do one of the deals, then you can help this tool to decide which one you want to do. I assume you're going to go for 15%. But that maybe 6% is close to your house or something, I don't know. But that's how you do it. And so yeah, this is how we look at every property. And this is nice to do this because you can also share this document with your investors, you can also share this document with your lender, and so it puts it all in a nice package for the people that you're going to be working with on this deal. And then also, when you go to advertise the property, you can pull this up and say, okay, I can't rent this apartment for less than what I put into the forma, but oh, market's gone up a little bit. Maybe I'll rent it for $50 more, and then you can plug this into this performance, see how it changes in the costs and expenses, and will track over time. You can also load this document into your accounting software, and so you can run budget to actuals against your actual performance in your accounting software, whether it be Buildium, is that what you said? Yeah, Buildium or Appfolio or Rent Manager, which is what I use, will say, it'll shoot you out a report that says, Stewart, you said your water was only going to be 5,000, but it was 7,000, and then we'll give you an alert that says, okay, there's a problem, and then you go to the building, you'll tour all the apartments, and you'll see that the lady number 1 left her toilet running for 3 months or 5 months or whatever. So you can use that as a tool as well. So this is one of the deals that I'm under contract for. You can invest in this deal today if you like. I'm buying it on Friday, and I need $76,000 to do it. So I can't leave here without somebody. So, but yeah, we'll buy it on Friday. Going for the long term. I think someone said how long these deals last and how long these deals last, and I forgot to actually answer the question. We tell our investors that this is like a 10-year thing. So if you need this money, don't give it to me because I'm not going to give it back to you in a timely manner. It's not like stocks. It's not like other investments. You can't call it, so you can't call me and say, hey, I need that money back on Friday. We're investing in the long term, and we're gonna own these properties long term. Now, we pay a quarterly return of 1.5% on your investment per quarter, and that's a 6% return per year. And then at the end of the year, we evaluate the properties, we evaluate what investment needs to be made in the properties, we evaluate cash on hand, and we do a bonus coupon, which could be anywhere from 10 to 16% per year. Then that's how we structure our fund. And our different funds perform at different levels at different times, but one year we return 19%, one year we return 0%, one year we return 8%. But that's why it's long term, we gotta think long term.
Anyone have questions on
On your 5-year calculation for ROI there?
Yeah.
What's, cause you said you're looking at like a long-term hold, so how'd you come up with it, like what was your exit to get that? Were you looking at like refinance, or you selling at a certain cap rate?
Yeah, so that anticipates,
Yes, you can see.
that calculates the difference between the appreciation in the building and so that calculates three things. The appreciation of the building, which is in row 59. It's going up over time. I've got an error there, it should say 245, not 225. But you'll see, I'm assuming the building goes up in value. Then in row 59, you see that I'm paying down the debt. So every year the debt gets less. So that's the best thing about real estate, right? You've got this division. And then we also put the cash in that we earn per year, and that calculates. What's our exit on this deal? Our exit on this deal is either a cash out refinance 5 to 7 years from now, or selling the property. And why I give it that big range is because it's market driven. Like this week would be a great week to do a cash out refinance, get that 3.6 money, but maybe 5 years from now, interest rates will be 6%, and so that won't work.
I guess my main question was on your property value, you got like estimates up there, what cap rate are you running your cash flows out, what you come up with that? At the top there, so like here on E, it says property value.
Yeah, so actually that's actually just a 3% increase.
Oh, okay, I got you, I was just wondering.
Yeah, you could definitely make it more complicated, but
Oh, that's fine, I was trying to figure out what you're running up.
yeah, in Ypsilanti, properties have increased 38% in the last 2 years alone. So that's a very conservative way to look at it in some areas, but that's just for a basic thing. And again, like you hit some grand slams sometimes. Like so, the first property we ever bought at Watermark, we bought it for $150, and 3 years later sold it for $395. So that like 6 times the equity. That was a rare circumstance, but that's what we did.
Anyone else got questions on our numbers?
Yeah, go ahead.
So when you do a cash out refi, do you always pay off your investors completely, or do you do something kind of a mix of that?
Yeah, so in the documents, it says we can do whatever we want. And so if you can't find a good deal to invest in, you should return it to investors. If you can find a great deal, then you should buy a new deal. Yeah, and your investors should have faith in you. But it just depends on how many investors you have. If you have 10 investors, they're going to influence you differently than if you have 100 investors. You know, whether it's psychologically or it's in the documents. Yeah.
What are your tips, or what are some ways to become more bankable without a W-2 income?
Yeah, that's a big problem. Yeah, real difficult. People all the time are like, Stewart, I want to quit my job and go into real estate. Like, don't. Like, it's gonna be really hard to get loans. Yeah, so you have to move into commercial financing where they don't care about your W-2 and you care about the property. Now they are going to care about your net worth. They're going to care about your liquidity, how much money you have in the bank. They're going to care about your track record, but they're not going to ask for your W-2, and that's a commercial loan. So instead of a 30-year mortgage that you get on a single-family home, you get a 20-year loan. It's worse from a cash flow perspective, but it opens up new financing. no one ever asked for my W-2 5 years of us working in waterfront, because we only got commercial loans. But yeah, if you're just starting out in real estate and you have an engineering job, I would definitely buy some properties before you quit that job, because it is very hard to finance properties without a W-2.
What kind of banks have you had success dealing with?
Yeah, so, I do most of my work with the local community banks that you can walk in, you can talk to your loan officer, you can explain what's going on. This Dundee deal, really sweet, my banker lives in Dundee, which is so weird. And he's like all jacked up, excited about the deal. He's like, oh, I know that building, you know, like he's all excited about it. So that's like most of our banking, until you get to a certain level in which you wanna do, Freddie Mac loans. Those are the best type of real estate loans, and, best interest rate, longest terms, no personal guarantees on the Freddie Mac. But, you know, probably commercial, local banking.
And did you just build these relationships by going in there and talking to people?
Yeah.
Like bankers, like, hey, I do this.
Yeah, yeah, so the first loan I ever got was 19, I was buying it, the property I bought was a $250,000 property. I invested $50,000 into it, so I needed a $200,000 loan. So I went into some local banks that I had checking accounts with, you know, and it's like, who's your loan officer? And I just got introduced to some people, and like some people were like, get out of here. And then, like, you know, some people were like, oh, okay, I see what you're doing. Like, you know, the property you're buying, that's a smart buy. Like, you know, who's your guarantor is going to be, you know, and you know, I was able to borrow the money.
In your numbers, how are you account for most banks that I've talked to or used? They usually do the 20-year, every 5 years, 5-year adjustable interest rate. How are you running that in your numbers? Like how do you run it?
Yeah, so this money I'm borrowing is 10 years. Okay, it's a 20-year amortization, 10 years. So it's the entire length of that performance. This is a 10-year scenario.
Okay.
Most often though, you borrow money just for 5 years. And so you need to assume that your interest rate could go up. And that's why you need to do a good job owning this property, reduce expenses, increase revenues to cover you if that happens. In the last, I've only been in real estate for 17 years now. There haven't been the real crazy things that have happened in the 80s or the early 90s, where interest rates were 18% in 1983. And so I think we have a better handle on the economy now to like control those fluctuations. So the first loan I did, the interest rate was 5.25%, and then 15 years later, most of my loans are at 4.5. This one we get 3.6, which is pretty low, but it's all just been right around 4.5 or 5.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So you're not trying to build in an adjustable rate here?
No, I don't build in an adjustable rate, no. You can make this model infinitely more complicated, you know, and there might be a way to do that. But like, the first property I ever bought, the interest rate was 5.25. It expired and went adjustable, but it never adjusted until it went to 5.5, then it went to 5.75, then it went to 6, and when I got to 6, I got to refinance this, and I refinanced it back down to 5. So I was able in that environment to do that.
Okay, these calculations here are for just more complex, correct?
Yeah, there's a 14-unit apartment building.
Okay, because the initial investment of 25,000 shares for 3, right? Is that correct?
We sell one share for 25,000. So if you wanted to invest, if you wanted to be my only investor on this deal, I would get 76,000 from you and give you 3.1 shares into the fund. Yeah, that's how it works. But then that's happening this Friday. 2 weeks from then, I'm buying the next building, and your shares get diluted by the new investors.
So you would, for the next building, you would invest another 25,000, is that what you're saying?
If you have it, I mean, sure.
I'm sorry.
If you have the money, you could continue to invest. most investors invest, one amount at one time, and then like a year later, we might invest more money.
Look into another fund?
Yeah, right, yeah. We try to keep the funds, short, because there are certain advantages to being the first investor in a fund, and there are certain advantages to being the last investor. The middle people don't really see those advantages, so we try to keep them as short as possible. Certainly open for less than a year. Because like the last guy, like let's say you kept the fund open for 3 years, the last guy in would have a huge advantage because the properties that you bought at the beginning are pretty shit along. Yeah.
Well, with the properties that you have now, track record, and also the networking and connections you have, pretty sure you have a wide pool of money that you can dive into.
Yeah, we have 984 investors.
Why? Not why, but.
Why
What I'm trying to get
are
to
we
is
talking to you?
No, this is what I'm saying. Okay, if I know I can get 100 grand from him, do it make more sense to me just to get 100 grand from him, or to get 25 from 4 different people?
Yeah, you want to have as little investors as possible to a point though. So in Fund 3, we raised $20 million and we took an investment from one person for $10 million.
Damn.
This guy thinks he's God to us. He like tries to push us around and give us orders and
I
stuff.
would do it, $10 million.
Yeah, right. He actually called me and said, Stewart, I need you to meet with me tomorrow. I was like, dude, you live in Iowa? He's like, yes. Yes, I do. So I flew to Iowa, no. So like, you have to be cognizant of that. Like, if you don't want to have 1 million investors, but at the same time, like, you don't want to have an investor who tells you what to do, because that's what if you wanted someone to tell you what to do, go get a job. So, yeah.
So then why are you talking to people in this room if you have 900 investors?
Yeah, just kind of doing it. I do one of these a month, and I always meet a couple of people that we end up doing business, like the insurance guy, let's talk, sometimes the lender shows up, do a loan. So there's always value in the room, even if everyone's broke. Hopefully not everyone. Well, yeah, I spoke to the Anna Real Estate Investment Club the other day, and a guy who showed up that he hired me to manage a property. Because I do property management for other people in Ypsilanti only, really. Rural Detroit. There's always value.
Quick, everybody, take that as room.
All right, great. So I've got business cards here. Anybody wants to grab one?
You have a slide up there, make sure you're setting up.
Yeah, I got business cards. I'll pass them out. And then I can send you this stuff and you can play with it and you can ask me questions.
Did everyone legibly write your email addresses?
Just pass it down. That'd be good. Just pass it down.
Thank you.